G'day fellas, how you been? Welcome back. Pretty stoked to be making this video today. It's going to be known as the Race C win. And it's been a long time coming because I just started playing on the wheel probably about 2 months ago. Set myself a challenge of winning Race A, then Race B, and then Race C. And this here is Race C. As you can see, started on pole position, made a decent start. So we head down into turn 1. Prowler gives us a little bit of a love tap. But we've consolidated first. Turn 2, almost non-existent. Turn 3. And yeah, got that in the bag. No one to be seen already. So for this video, we're going to jump on board with Steve Jessica. Don't ask me, that's just his name. So he starts in P6. Bit of carnage here. Look at that, Super Formula always providing the carnage points. So he stayed in 6th somehow. Up against Mr. 666 Sun. As someone runs wide, another bloke loops it, another bloke comes back for a punt. There's Prowler in the grass. Another bloke in the grass. I can't keep up with the amount of cars running wide and off the track. So he's already up in a P4 from just staying on the turf. Orange car just had a glimpse up in front, but yeah, not really there to be seen. 666 got 3rd. As we come down into this hairpin, looks for a move under the brakes, gets a bit argy-bargy. Looks like 666 turns around, and Gav's picked himself up a penalty. And so there it is, halfway through lap 1, Steve Jessica has positioned himself as the main rival to steal this win. Now as we stay on board here, the first few things I've noticed is that Steve doesn't mind using the odd assist. He's got them all flashing there in the bottom right hand corner. Even has used a little bit of his overtake. I think we saw him use that off the line as we just fly through the laps here because absolutely nothing is happening. He is slowly catching me, and here we go. By lap 7, Steve has closed this gap down. Now mind you, I was running fuel map 2 and I haven't touched any of my overtake yet. I was saving that in case one of these drivers in the pack was actually quick. So I was slowly watching that time come down. I think he's sitting at about 1 second back now. So I was ever ready to start smashing my overtake button if I had to. But if you've had a few goes of these Super Formula cars, you will notice if you get down into within a second, you start experiencing some serious understeer. Now I had contemplated going into the pits on lap 6, but it seemed to be most blokes like to do the lap 7. Not sure why, but maybe it's got to do with your fuel burn rate. So I think fuel map 2 definitely helps with your traction zones. I'm running no traction control, like no aids apart from ABS. So when you're on 1, you seem to light up the rear tyres very quickly. And we're going to see what advantage I take into the pits right now. So we have a quick look. I've got 12 units of fuel left. Steve was down to 5. So that should open that gap back up outside of the pits. So I was a little bit worried, but now that I've seen that he was probably using fuel map 1, I know that I've got a little bit to play with. Like I said, we haven't used any overtake there. And we're only going to take on about 80 units of fuel. That should see us to the end. Now I do overfuel a touch there, and Steve comes out with 90, so I was feeling pretty safe. That's a decent gap, that's up to a 3-second gap, and right here I thought, oh no, have I lost it? Have I completely ruined it? And there's Steve's view. Now he's not as far back as I had hoped, so making that error out of the pits really started to put the pressure on. I ran not flat 29s, but I ran 29s for the first stint. Now we're going to have to up it for this second stint. And at the end of the video we'll see that I was running 28s for the second stint, so really stepped up my game a touch. As you can see here, Steve's already halfway through his overtake button, so I think that's what he's using to help keep me in range. His first stint looking pretty good there, it was 28s. So these are the important laps. I was just trying to break his back, you know, like trying to get a few tenths on him here and there, really make him have to start pushing. And when you start pushing in these cars, the mistakes come thick and fast, so I was hoping for one of them to open up the breathing space. And he's just hovering there at about 1 second, 1.5 seconds back. And that mistake on the opening lap there, really putting myself under a bit of pressure. Every time I had a look, I had saved the replay for this one, or I hadn't saved the replay. I was recording when I filmed this, and I managed to forget to stop recording and then turn the PlayStation off. So that footage is gone, so we have to use the GT Sport replay footage, which doesn't give us the intervals anymore. I would be pretty happy if they gave us, like, just said he was 1 second back or 2 seconds back. I don't need to know the exact tenths of how far away he is. But this is the second lap after the pits, and you can see Steve just holding on, staying in my mirrors, keeping the pressure on. The sweats were getting pretty bad at this stage. Like I'd been waiting a long time to actually have a chance to win a race C. Like I think this was the 4th week of doing race C races, and the best I would normally qualify is 4th or 5th, and then even then just getting a 4th or 5th was pretty hard. Racing plenty of A-grade players lately, but this lobby I managed to luck out. A 26.2 was my qualifying time, and maybe it's just me, but that gap looks to have just opened out a touch further. As Steve runs a 29, at this stage I was running mid-28s, so definitely gaining a tenth or two here. Now I have a feeling this is the lap, this might be the lap where Steve puts the most amount of pressure on. I might even make a mistake here somewhere. As he closes this gap, it looks like he gets really close there, but I'm just trying to square the car on exit in those traction zones, get as much accelerating done as possible. As Steve using all the road, he's put in another purple sector, so he really is attacking now, starting to use a bit of that overtake, trying to get him deep inside the 1 second. But it feels like I'm just placing the car in the right spots at this stage. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. If you're a pro driver, let me know what you think of those lines. They felt okay in the car. Looks like there was a little bit more room I could use if I had to. Now this is one of those super tricky corners. It feels like if you don't go anywhere near an apex there and keep your corner speed up really high, you get to benefit a bit down this straight. As I think Steve puts in the fastest lap of the race there. Well, it's definitely the fastest lap of the race at this stage. I think it might stay the fastest lap. He's getting really close. I think my laps were low 28s at that point. Really just trying to stay ahead. Felt like I run a bit wide there. I was starting to panic. Steve really was starting to get to me here. As we miss that apex completely. Steve has a moment that gives me a breather. A breather I was desperately needing too. It felt like every time I looked at the gap he was a tenth closer, a tenth closer, a tenth closer, and then I look up here and I notice that he was a couple of tenths further back. And then all of a sudden, just at that hairpin, as I go to turn right into this corner, I have a quick glimpse at the sector time and notice the split time, and notice that Steve is now 2.5 seconds back, maybe even 3.5 seconds. And there it is. I breathed a massive sigh of relief. Running those low 28s was starting to get to me. As we'll see when we jump back into my view any second now. Maybe, maybe not. So 2 laps to go. Steve's back has finally been broken. That gap's nice and big. As we jump forward to the last lap, you can see I've added a couple of tenths to that. And sure enough, only an absolute disaster could stop me winning this race. I actually get right out of the loud pedal at this stage. I know that I've got about a 3.5 second lead, and I'm going to use all of it to make sure I do not lose this race. So Steve, I think he's given up. Doesn't seem to be attacking the circuit as much as he was a while ago. And as we come around to finish Sector 2, I'm thinking his front tyres might be well and truly cooked as we jump on board for the last sector. So there we are. That 1:29.3 I think was the lap that he was putting all the pressure on, and it was just getting to me. So back down into the 28s, and we're going to finish this with a 1:30. Easy does it. You can see not even touching curbs because I do not want to spit out at all. Staying as far away from them as possible. Now if you had noticed a few laps earlier, I was getting right out on those curbs and touching them all. And we come across pretending we're the old LH, taking a checkered flag. And so if you've got ideas of what my next challenge can be, let me know. If you made it to this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe my next challenge is become an A grade driver challenge. I'm currently sitting about 3,500 points away from an A grade, but I'm not sure how interesting making videos of that can be. So if you got any ideas of stuff you wouldn't mind me talking about or wouldn't mind seeing, definitely let me know in the comments below. But once again fellas, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you all later.